Chicken dinner.
Chicken dinner. Chicken tikka masala.
Chicken tikka masala. I'll have a chicken tikka masala. I'll have a couple of boonas. And
Bindi bhaji.
Yeah.
Sag bhaji.
Yeah.
And like a bucket of mango chutney, not
Yes,
like a little
yes.
tray.
Yeah. And do we get a free can of pop with that? Just if not, I don't want it.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fully Charged Show News Update. I'm joined today by the fabulous and always fascinating Roger Atkins.
Thank you very much.
From Electric Vehicles Update. And
Outlook.
Outlook. Oh,
for goodness sake, we rehearsed it 3 times.
The writing sideways.
Keep it in. Yeah.
Electric Vehicle Outlook. So as you can see, well, what I'm going to tell you is it's very early in the morning and it's quite fresh, isn't it? We're not sweating.
No, we're not.
It is sunny, which is lovely, and we're at the Fully Charged live show outside on the roof, very generously donated to us, the roof of the Genesis show.
And how
stand.
kind of Phil Collins to just give us his rig just like that at the drop of a hat.
We had
Amazing.
to do a Genesis Phil Collins tribute, but it's actually Genesis cars, and there are 2 amazing Genesis cars down there. That are looking rather swish, new electric. It's the first time I've seen them.
I haven't seen them, so I'll have a look. I'll have a gander.
No,
yeah, thank you.
Very, very nice.
Thank you.
So that's very kind of them to lend us their roof. The crowds are starting to build now. They are. There are people arriving because we're like the show isn't open yet. There's still actually a bit of frantic activity around, but there's going to be a lot of people here today.
Yeah.
I think it's possible. Bizarrely, today will be the busiest day.
Yes,
which is.
I got here at 6:30, Rob, because I was like paranoid of and
very
and like all elderly people now, you get to places hours before you need to. Yeah, I mean, I go to the airport the day before I need to fly somewhere.
But we are, I think really, I think it's fair to say we're very excited about the challenges and the opportunities and the things that we're seeing change around us. I think we are at a pivotal moment. I think it's fair to finally say this is not just electric cars, the energy system in general.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's this nexus of renewable energy and electric mobility with the battery in the middle of it all. Yeah. And I think it is an extraordinary time. And I know you've got a number of things around, where has the energy come from? Yeah. Obviously, we've got this dreadful thing going on in Ukraine at the moment, the whole issue with, energy in Europe, how that's going to evolve and change, massive challenges with all of that. But there's never been a more exciting time to be in and around this, either as an observer or I think for young people, anyone, watching
who work
this.
in the industry.
Who want to work in the industry. Yeah. This is a great time and a great place to, I think a lot of people coming along here are going to learn a lot about, what perhaps they might want to do themselves as a career in the future. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a great place all round. I'm so looking forward to the next few days.
So you would say, we do say you are generally optimistic about, putting aside the global challenges that we have in terms of petrostates and war.
Yes.
Other than that, generally optimistic about the way things are developing. Yeah,
I am. Rob, look, you're one of the kind of, vanguards of all of this stuff. Go back almost 2 decades, probably more. Would it be more than 20 years?
No, well, no. 12 years fully charged.
But when was Scrap Heap Challenge?
Oh, yeah, 20 years.
But think about it. That's about recycling.
Yeah.
That's about, all that stuff.
And engineering and making things. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So yes, am I optimistic? 100% yes, for lots of reasons. I think younger people are much more inclined towards this. Lots of big reasons. And I think a fundamental reason is that there's now an economic imperative to a lot of what's going on with what you could call ecology. Yeah. All this stuff with with renewable energy, electric vehicles, etc., etc., a lot of it is predicated on businesses now and it making business sense, not just people doing it because it's the right thing to do. Yeah.
Before we go on, I just want to mention Amsterdam. So anyone watching this who's not at Fully Charged Live this year will have missed it by the time this goes out. But there is Amsterdam, Fully Charged Live Amsterdam on the 20th, 21st, 22nd of May, quite soon.
Yep.
At the Rye in Amsterdam, and there are some amazing things there. Well, Electric Avenue. What I like is Electric Avenue has every car that is commercially available on the European mainland on display in Electric Avenue. So there's still lots of people. There will be cars you haven't seen. In particular, the Xpengs, the two Xpengs.
Wow. Would that be the first time people are seeing those?
First time they've been on display outside of Norway. I think there are some in Norway. So it's certainly the first time many people will have seen them in the metal.
Yeah.
And a big home energy section as well, which is really exciting. And of course, because it's Amsterdam, canal's right next to the venue.
Electric boats.
There's going to be some electric vessels on display.
Yeah, nice one. Well, look, I think... I think a lot of people, that's someone leaving for Amsterdam now to get there nice and early.
That'll be an older person flying to Amsterdam in their
get there a couple of weeks in advance. No, I think most people, let's be honest, your crowd, both people who are kind of regulars, so to speak, but I think the people, getting more attuned to this, they're going to want to drive there in an electric car if they can, of course.
Yeah.
They're going to probably take the train there, I imagine.
Yes, very easy. And public transport or cycle to it.
It's amazing in Amsterdam. It truly is. And of course, they get the rotten weather like we do here in London. So when people say, it's all right for people riding a bike, what about the weather? Yeah. Well, they seem to better do it over there. So
very happily.
The Dutch have a can-do attitude. I really think this is a great place to do the show because... they've done an awful lot in Amsterdam around, charging, sharing the charging proposition, pushing it forward.
They've just announced very recently that you have to have electric vehicles in many Dutch cities by 2025, I think. So they're really pushing the boat out.
They are indeed.
I don't know if that's the right term because it's nothing to do
with
boats. But
pushing the boat out. That's exactly what they're going to do in Amsterdam. And so let's go Dutch.
Yeah. Now, here's an interesting little side thing, because when I was last in the Netherlands, in Eindhoven, which are doing amazing, Eindhoven University is extraordinary, the stuff that's coming out of there, but we went to a Tesla Supercharger in Eindhoven, I think it's 28 Superchargers, which was the first one in Europe, as far as I know, that was open to anyone, any vehicle could use it.
Right.
And so that's why we went, I want to have a look at this, because I want to see all these Renault Zoes and
Polestars and whatever,
all charging on it. Nothing other than Tesla's using it. And this was like 2 or 3 weeks after it had been opened to anyone.
Yeah, but I think the awareness will come.
Of course. I think it's just maybe people just don't know, but I mean, because there were other cars charging there on another charger.
Yeah, I think people will become familiar with it through things like this. We're talking about it now, so that'll help. But of course, there are some practical issues. There will be plenty of cars where the charge port on the vehicle or a number of things that make it a little bit tricky are going to be problematic.
That's true.
However, there certainly will be plenty of people who'll be thinking, well, hurrah. And the thing that I'm intrigued about is, does this work for or against Tesla? It shows Tesla to be I think as they've always been right out there, doing these things for the first time. But I hope it works in their favour, because I think what they've done in being, the early player in all of this, taking all of these huge risks, the first, what would I call them, EOEM. Do you like that?
Yeah.
EOEM. I lifted that, if I'm honest with you. I should give credit. I was talking to some people from Bridgestone who are doing some cool stuff. Talk to them soon. Yeah, but they're doing a lot more than that. But they call them EOEMs. Do you know almost half the electric vehicles on the road have Bridgestone tyres? I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
There's a reason, and I'll talk about it with people later. But yeah, EOEMs.
EOEMs. All right, very good. So when we were in Eindhoven, I got our roving reporter, a young lad called Robert, to talk about other cars charging on Tesla Superchargers.
Yeah.
Over to him. Now, regular viewers of the Fully Charged show will absolutely instantly recognise what's behind me. It's a Tesla Supercharger station. I think there's 28 chargers here. We're outside a hotel in Eindhoven in the Netherlands. I've used these superchargers all over Europe. It makes driving long distance in an EV a non-event. What you're really worried about is, where's the toilet and can I get a baguette? The charging is irrelevant. And these chargers are slightly different. There's thousands of them all over Europe and North America and China and Australia. But at the moment, they've always been exclusively just for Teslas. Well, Tesla have changed that on a certain selection of sites. They're doing a test, essentially, and this is one of them. Any car with a CCS charger can park here, plug in, and charge really quickly, really confidently, because the chargers always work, which isn't always the case with some charging networks in the UK. I'm not going to name names, but we've been through a painful transition there. But all these always work, and you just have to have the Tesla app. You download the Tesla app, you put in your details, and once you've done it, plug in, it charges your car, which I think is quite interesting. And this is the first one I've actually been to that is open to other vehicles. And we've been here last night. We arrived here last night. There was only Teslas here. This morning, there's only Teslas here. We haven't seen any other car charger. I was convinced it would be full of Ioniq 5s and Audi e-trons, but no. Porsche Taycans, you'd think there'd be 4 of them plugged in. Not one. There's other chargers over there, regular chargers that anyone can use, and they're in use. There is, in fact, an Audi e-tron plugged into that one over there, but he could plug in here. I don't know why they don't, but anyway, I just thought it was an interesting transition as we struggle as humanity to wean ourselves off fossil fuels, because we're all learning there's some negative sides to buying fossil fuels. End of rant. Off transport just for a moment.
Do you need to change your bag at all? You're all right.
It's okay.
Just carry on. Yeah, carry on.
I just think this is interesting because of the scale of it. Hornsey 2 just went into operation because we're sitting here.
Yes.
It's a sunny day. Well, I know that over the whole country there's going to be a lot of solar today, but it's also quite windy. We just don't know about it because I'm looking here. I can see miles in every direction. I can't see any wind turbines. Offshore, Hornsey 2, 165 turbines producing 1.3 gigawatts. So a massive chunk. Like an old gas-burning power plant or a coal-burning power plant, they're like 1 and a bit gigawatts.
Yeah.
That's huge, and that's just come online, and we don't even know it's there. That's what's interesting, I think.
And I think we should shout about it because I think it's pretty spectacular. The Portuguese have got some pretty impressive wind farms off the coast of Portugal there, for the obvious geographic reason that it's a very windy part of the world. Yeah. But and compared and contrast, for example, to America, who've only just started kicking off the whole kind of offshore wind farm stuff. You certainly see plenty on land. Yeah. This can only accelerate. But of course, all of this intermittent renewable energy proposition is predicated on storage. And this is where I think the accelerating adoption of electric vehicles, all of these batteries, is going to start to play a part in this thing called an ecosystem where you're going to have the capacity and the capability to store all of this renewable rather than, and this is a simple fact, as you know, it's been dumped in the past because you can't use it at a given time, and there's been nowhere to store it.
No, we've got to make use of it. I think that's my argument always is, look, here's the problem with offshore wind. It makes too much electricity.
Yeah, it's too good.
They work too well.
Yes.
Yeah. And we've got to be able to use that electricity otherwise. I mean, the one thing I like about this, the Hornsey 1, which I was aware of it, but I just thought it was Hornsey, but it's now become Hornsey 1. Right. That's 1.2 gigawatts. That's been going for a few days, and then for a few years. Hornsey 3 and 4 have got planning and are in production now to put them in. They're massive. Takes the total of the Hornsey wind farm, which is only a small chunk when you look at the map of the North Sea, between Britain and Denmark, 5 gigawatts, so bigger than any power plant on mainland UK.
Well, and all of this starts to beg the question, if we can get storage right for renewables, where are we going with nuclear?
Yes.
Because, the nuclear proposition has always been something that people say is, the base level proposition, because the wind doesn't always blow, the sun doesn't always shine. But if you're always able to store the energy and have that ability to balance, it also,
we're aiming for 40 gigawatts of offshore wind. So that is about what the UK generally requires less than 40 gigawatts. Right. There's some peaks where it's more than that. But that basically covers, that is the base. In effect, that's the base load. And it is the argument then, which I'm not skilled enough to know, but generally there's some wind somewhere around the UK, even on a still day.
There's a lot of wind.
Those things are so huge, they work in very
There's a lot of wind in our house, especially in the morning, I've got to tell you. But anyway, move on.
I just thought this is an interesting story. Renault, one of the very early made for production electric vehicle manufacturers, the Renault Zoe, they are talking about separating the electric car manufacturing business from the rest of that business, which I don't understand enough about business to know if that's a good or bad idea or why they're doing it. Or
well, only because I looked this up when you mentioned we're going to talk about it and read some Reuters stuff and some other things from some clever people. So this isn't me. Apparently, it's all to do with shareholder proposition. Shareholders to understand better how money is made or spent in a given business. So having it separate in that way, because Ford are doing this as well.
Yes, Ford have said the same.
You know, it begs the question: if you're in the bit that's combustion engine, you're in the bit that's actually making the money at the moment to drive the electric vehicle revolution. But nonetheless, you would start wondering, well, you know, I'd like to be in the bit of the business that's going forward rather than the one that's you know, maybe not going to do that for too much longer. But I kind of think it's inevitable, and I think it does actually. Here's a thought: it potentially could bring about the option of one of these incumbent, you know, OEMs, then becoming EOEMs. Perhaps joining forces with someone else, or dare I say it, just imagine this. Rather than spending 40 billion whatsits on Twitter, just think if you bought someone like Mercedes or, you know, and it was Mercedes EOEM, you know, say they split that company, or they bought the bit of Ford that was just electric cars. You know, I mean, who's to say anything can happen with all of this? But I think that's the reason why this stuff's been emerging.
And it does sound like it's clearly something they're all talking about, I would say.
I think they're kind of having to. For market reasons. And of course, as you rightly say about Renault, you know, Renault and Nissan right at the beginning of a lot of this, and we shouldn't forget that, because I know Tesla get all the attention, but you know, you think of the Nissan Leaf, etc. And of course, you used to be back in the day Carlos Ghosn's chauffeur, weren't you?
I did drive the boss, mate. He wasn't packed in a music case when I drove him.
No, he was
just sitting in a car.
Yes, do you know what? That was one of the early episodes.
Man,
do you know what? And you have got such a library of these moments with people.
Yeah, it's worth watching
over the years.
Just to have a look at it.
It is, because you know, the thing that you've done that I admire is you've been consistent all along with this, and you know, you've done it so much in the past when it was all out of your own pocket. It was your hobby. You just did it because you were passionate about it. Obviously, you know, of course, it's got to be more commercial now. But no, I remember that one well, because I was thinking, how come he gets to speak to these sort of people? I want to do that. So
he was a fascinating guy. That was the one where because I was driving him, I wasn't looking at him, and I said, I'm really impressed with the build quality of the Leaf. It's amazing. It's the first generation of this car, and it's as good as a Golf. And I meant that in an absolutely flattering way. Like, you know, the Golf's been in 5, 6, 7 iterations. It's got better and better, and this is as good as that right from the get-go. He was not happy with that. He did not want his prize vehicle compared to the other flip side of like a positive story from the original OEMs is Toyota and BMW, which is particularly Toyota, you know, very openly saying we're going to keep making combustion engines, and all the legislation from different governments around the world is stupid. We've got to keep making combustion engines. Electric cars don't work is the essential. And still, you know, and basically, let's face it, Toyota is, if not the biggest, the neck and neck biggest manufacturer in the world next to Volkswagen. Volkswagen are definitely going electric. Toyota, they make sort of half-hearted gestures towards it. You look here, all the big manufacturers that are on display here, that have stands here, that are doing test drives here, that are really pushing their electric vehicles. There's no Toyotas here.
Well, it's more than that, Rob, because you've had Volkswagen, I think you've had Mercedes, you've had a number of them saying we are no longer investing in research and development for internal combustion. And now you've got, I think it's Oliver Zipse, isn't it, at BMW, saying we will continue with R&D. And I find it really weird. I just don't get it. One thing we perhaps should briefly mention that sort of relates to this is you are hearing some OEMs now saying things about these deadlines, 2013, 2035, if market conditions allow.
Right.
In terms of stopping making combustion engines. Now, what I'd like to know is what market conditions? Can you be a little bit more explicit? It's very general. It's very broad. Is it about supply chain? Because there are some issues there with batteries.
Yes.
Maybe it is that, maybe it isn't. But I think it would be good if they were a little bit more, a lot more specific, so we can all get our heads around what exactly do they mean. Because otherwise, you know, you could call it a bit of a get out of jail card, couldn't you? Whatever. Or you could be cynical and say they're just playing a game. But I don't think that's the case.
No. There's one other car story. I don't know if you know anything about this, but Lucid. Have you seen this headline about Lucid selling 100,000 cars to one customer?
I have.
don't know who that is.
I'll tell you exactly who it is.
Good.
It's Saudi Arabia. Now, the reason why that's happening, and that's, that jet's going to Saudi Arabia right now.
Yeah, it's probably got some Lucid spare parts in the cargo hold.
Yeah. This is very interesting. It's over 10 years, so it's up to 100,000 vehicles, and it won't just be the Lucid Air. It will be Lucid product as it evolves.
Wow.
And
that's extraordinary.
It is and it isn't. But if your core investor, the person that's basically helped set the company up, can't invest in the business by buying the product, who can?
Right.
And I think
so their core investor is a Saudi company.
Correct. I think a sovereign wealth fund.
Right.
So and
they've
again,
got a few quid.
Well, they have, and we know where
years.
they've got it from. But in the same way that the OEMs are building their electric vehicle futures using money from combustion engine sale, then I personally don't think there's anything wrong with some of these enterprises that, have been all part of the thing that we want to stop burning stuff,
I'd much rather they spent it on a load of electric cars than on armaments. Let's just leave that one there.
Yes, let's definitely leave that one there. But that's the background to that story. And
it's very amazing news for Lucid if that comes. That means they can actually start manufacturing cars properly and churning them out.
Well, can I just point out to the ladies and gentlemen at home? I felt like a student when you sent me the note saying this is what we want to talk about in the news. It was a bit like my teacher saying, this is your homework. Have a look at it, and when we talk, you need to know what you're talking about. Don't make stuff up.
But one last story then, which I think is bonkers. But I've been to Morocco once, and it's an amazing country to go to, with a very pro-renewable regime. So the king of Morocco is obsessed with solar. Not surprisingly, it's a sunny place, and they've got a lot of space in the desert.
Yeah,
they've got a lot of solar already. But there's a company called X-Links that wants to run a cable from Morocco directly to the UK, not to Gibraltar, which makes sense because it's only a few miles across the sea. But they want to transmit 3.6 gigawatts of solar from the Sahara Desert to the UK. That's slightly bigger than Hinkley Point C in terms of generating a capacity. 8% of the UK's demand coming from there. But I mean,
I love it.
They say they've got a new type of cable that can carry that power and not lose most of it in the journey.
On the way.
It's a lot. It's 3,800 kilometres.
Yeah.
It's a long way.
I say bring it on. The extraordinary thing, as we were mentioning sort of 20 years ago and other different timelines, the stuff that's happening now, we wouldn't have imagined it. We couldn't have imagined this would happen. So and the technology is exponential. It's inventing itself along the way. So when I see a story like that, I don't think, oh, that's not going to happen. I kind of think if someone wants to make it happen, and there are enough clever people around, they'll make it happen.
And they're also very insistent on saying this can be done with no government subsidies. And
that's epic.
It's the price, the strike price of that electricity is half of what nuclear power is. Hinkley Point C, which is £98 a megawatt hour, and this will be 44 or something like that. So
what's not to like? And also, I love it when you say Morocco because I just hear in my head the Clash singing "Rock the Casbah." I don't know. I just can't help it.
There may be younger people watching who aren't as aware of that, but that said, they should then
look up the Clash. Do it on the
band.
Spotify or whatever it is you've got.
Yes.
Rock the Casbah, and just think of that cable coming all the way from Morocco to England and lighting up everything that we do.
Yeah.
So,
but wouldn't it be lovely to be giving money to a country like Morocco for solar power rather than a country like... I'd happily buy solar power from Saudi Arabia as well. I'm not dissing them. But I'd rather buy
Morocco's closer as well.
Morocco is closer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go for it. Let's do it.
There's some announcements. Ooh. Oh, there's an announcement. There's a car. Yeah.
That's your car.
Oh, God, I've left the car in the wrong place. It's a Renault Kangoo. Might not be mine. It's clearly blocking something. That's the first announcement we've heard. That's good timing because we've got to wind it up.
Yep.
We're about to have a very long but fabulous day here at the Fully Charged live show at Farnborough International in 2022. It's going to be amazing. We're so glad about the weather. The weather forecast at least is not pouring with rain.
Yeah, it's fine.
That hall behind us, which is massive, is full of stands. It's absolutely extraordinary how many people are here. Over 250 exhibitors. thousands of test drives. I mean, I'm saying this now because it's in the past. It's too late.
You're time travelling, aren't you?
We're time travelling. But we'll be back next year. We'll be back next year in the north of England as well. We're in Amsterdam, as we mentioned earlier on, soon. And also in September, we're in San Diego, California.
And then are you going to Australia
We're in Australia in March 2023, Sydney.
Look at that.
Very excited about that.
My word.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for, inviting me along.
It's been great. I'm glad you did your homework.
Well, you haven't marked it yet, so I don't know how well I did.
You'll get a little gold star. But please do subscribe to Fully Charged Show. Please do have a look at the Patreon link, which is beneath these things. There'll be links to all the stories that we've just discussed in a casual way.
Nice.
But there are some good links and with a lot more information about those stories in the show notes. And that's it. As always, if you have been, thank you for watching.
Well, thank you so much for watching that episode. We hope you enjoyed. Robert's just having a little lie down because he's a bit pooped from filming that. So while he's doing that, let me tell you to watch this episode here. If you like that one, you're going to like this one. This is our most recent upload. Here is a link to subscribe to the channel, and this is a link to our Patreon if you fancy it.